Good morning, good evening, namaste, hola, bonjour, g'day mate, and marapan. This is Namya Joshi, your host for the day. Welcome to episode 51 of the podcast, Each One, Teach 10, An Amazing World of STEM. An inspiring venture where we'll be discussing that STEM is part of every day for every kid. We all will learn together how to build a STEM culture. Today, I'm very excited to have Mr. Jake Miller, an EdTech and learning enthusiast, author of Educational Duct Tape and EdTech Integration Mindset, host of the EdTech News Brief and EduDuct Tape podcasts, speaker, a sharer of #EduGIF and @JakeMillerTech and on jakemiller.net. Jake's day job is personalized learning specialist, and he previously spent 5 years as a technology integration specialist and an additional 14 years in the classroom teaching maths, science, and STEM at various grade levels. His favorite job, however, is in his full-time position as a husband and father. It's my honor to have you here on my podcast, Mr. Jake. So how are you doing today?
Well, first off, thank you, Namya, for having me on, and congratulations on 50 episodes. I know you just had your big 50th anniversary or 50th episode celebration, and 2 years. Is that right? 2 years of the podcast?
Yes.
Namya, I couldn't get most 15-year-olds here in America to record one podcast episode, worth yet 50. Congratulations. That's so awesome. And that you're doing something that you have a passion for, like bringing STEM to more classrooms and to more students. That's just so amazing. I'm proud to be associated with you and to be on this show with you. So thank you for the work you do. So as you could tell, Namya, I'm doing great. You asked how I'm doing. I'm doing great because I'm excited to be here talking to you today.
Thank you so much. It's an honor again, to have you here on my podcast. So before we start, our audience are eagerly waiting to know more about you and what is the work that you're doing right now and your future plans as well.
Yeah, so I am in America. As you said, I'm in Ohio. I've been a teacher for a long time. This is my 20th year in education. Most of those years were in the classroom teaching like middle school age students, 13, 14-year-olds, 7th and 8th grade, kind of around there. And then I found as I taught for a while that I was really excited about what I could do with educational technology and then what my students could do with educational technology. So I started finding ways to work that into my practice. First, I started using it myself, and then I had a STEM class and then teaching kids about robotics. But I found what I was really excited about was helping teachers learn how to use technology to make their jobs easier, but also to make the learning experience better for kids. So I've been in a lot of different roles over the years doing that. And then I do stuff on the side, as you mentioned, with social media, with those GIFs that I make, with the podcast that I host and things like that, just to help teachers because the results are great for students that way and teachers feel better about their work that way too, I think.
That sounds really great, that how you use technology yourself and then help students and teachers to make their life easy as well with technology in the classroom, because technology in the classroom, once again, is the best way for engagement.
Yeah, for sure. And it's kind of a lot like the work that you're doing, right? I found something that I'm really excited about and something that I want to spread further. And that's the kind of thing I do. And that's kind of what you're doing with this show as well.
Right. Thank you so much. So to begin with, EduDuct Tape is podcast hosted by you that focuses on viewing EdTech as a tool used to meet goals, address learning standards, and solve problems in the classroom. So everybody has this inspiration to start a podcast. So what inspired you to start this podcast?
Well, I think when you start a podcast, for most people, your goal is to start it with a certain message that you want to get out there. You probably shouldn't be doing it just because you want a podcast, because that's not going to last very long. You should be doing it because you have something you want to communicate. So you want to communicate this mission of getting STEM into all classrooms every day. I wanted to communicate a certain message to teachers, and that was that when they use educational technology, because teachers are often scared of using new technologies and learning new technologies, it makes them nervous, it makes them overwhelmed. They can't figure out which ones to use. They think they just have to do it to impress people. And I really wanted to share the message with them of we should use technology in a certain way to achieve certain things. And that was that I wanted teachers to know they should think about what is it that they're trying to achieve for their students. Are they trying to help them learn new information? Or are they trying to hear from all of their students? Or are they trying to see if their students understand? What are they trying to do? And then pick a technology that helps them do that. So in that podcast and the book that it led to as well, my goal is to communicate to teachers, listen, it's okay not to try everything. You should try the ones that help you meet the goals that you have. And so that's why I started the podcast. I really wanted to get that message out there. But I had some other things too, and I bet this will resonate with you, Namya, is that I wanted to practice my public speaking. I wanted to get my ideas out. I wanted to kind of formalize what I thought about educational technology. And it was a really good way. You know, I've recorded now probably hundreds, if not thousands of hours of podcasts that really help me understand where my mind is at on things. Sometimes you have to put some time into it to narrow that down.
I totally agree. That's really motivating that you're talking about giving out your message and also communicating your message through a podcast where you're talking about how teachers can use technology and not to get nervous, just to use technology to achieve benefits for students. And it's not necessary that you have to try everything. Try what suits you the most, and it's the best way to get your voice out as well. So I totally agree with that.
Yes, for sure.
Right. So you're known as the hashtag EduGIF guy. Why is that so?
So years ago, you've probably sent a GIF file, a GIF or a GIF file before, Namya. They're these little files. They're kind of like image files. They look like a video, though, and they play like a short loop of something. You might send one out of SpongeBob, or you might send one out of a character from a TV show like The Office, or your favorite athlete or something like that. And we use them a lot to show our reactions to things in conversations. Well, I started making them for educational purposes years ago. It's probably been 7 years since I started doing that. And the goal was to teach educators a small bit of something about educational technology. And you can't fit much into a GIF. So I had to be really clear and really concise and really short and keep it really focused on something. So instead of recording a 20-minute long YouTube video, I was recording a 40-second long GIF file, and it might show a teacher how to use Google Forms, or how to do a certain formula in Google Sheets, or maybe how to add a YouTube video into a Pear Deck. But whatever it was I was trying to show them how to do, it's this nice short little blip of how to do it. They could watch it in 40 seconds, and if they don't get it, they could repeat it and watch it again. And within a few minutes, they've learned a new skill. And the reason I started doing that, I realized that I was making videos first, and I was putting those videos out there, and they weren't getting watched. That doesn't mean videos are bad. It just means that my videos weren't working in that situation. I was recording these like 8 or 9 minute long videos, putting them out there for teachers to learn about educational technology, and they weren't watching it. So I realized, well, something needs to change here. What should I change? And I kind of made one little change, and I changed it from a video to a GIF. I took my face off the screen, I took the sound out of it, and it's just the screen. It's just whatever I was doing. And I said, let's see how this works. What do I have to lose, right? And I tried it, and I found that educators really appreciated these short little files that they could watch really quickly and learn something new instead of sitting down and watching a 10-minute long video. In 1 or 2 minutes, they learned something new. So that's why I started making them, and I found that educators really appreciated them. I don't make them as much anymore. I just don't have as much time for it, but they were a really good file. It's kind of similar to how TikTok is so popular now for learning things, because you can learn something new in 1 minute, right? It's just a GIF file instead of a video, but it's kind of a similar idea where really quickly you learn something new.
Totally agree. It's pretty significant that you're talking about educational purposes through GIFs, and that your goal was to teach educators about education technology, but in a concise way, that you're going from a 20 minutes video to 40 seconds, that whatever is being taught in those 20 minutes can be easily learned through 40-second video. And that's how people are, with the trend these days as well, with YouTube Shorts or with TikTok, people are preferring short videos over longer ones because they can explain the entire concept in a shorter way. I agree with that.
Yeah, and it's great for the viewer. The viewer wants that short, quick thing like that. They don't want to have to commit to a really long video.
Right, I agree. So my next question, you're talking about GIFs and all. So may I know, how do you create your GIFs?
So my favorite program for doing it, there are multiple ones out there, but my favorite is called Camtasia. Camtasia comes from a company called TechSmith, and Camtasia can make videos, and I actually use it for my videos for my current YouTube channel or YouTube show. I actually produce my current podcast that same way. It's not my favorite way for podcasts, but it works for podcasts. You can export as an audio file. So pretty much anything I make on video, I'm using Camtasia, but you can also export a Camtasia file as a GIF. And so it just won't export the audio with it, and it'll add a loop at the end of it. And you could set the quality of the file so that you can know if it's a bigger or smaller file, because you can't post super big files on like Twitter and things like that. So yeah, I use Camtasia. I've actually got a video on my YouTube channel. Maybe we should link it to the show notes for anybody who wants to try it out, that goes through how do I add my cursor on the screen, and how do I make sure it's the right length? How do I speed up parts of the video? But it's really nice that then if I record how to do something and it's 3 minutes long, I'm like, well, that's too long for a GIF. I can go through the file and snip parts out and make parts faster and make parts slower. It's not the only way to do it, but that's my favorite tool for it. I think it's a really good one.
I agree. Like, I've used Camtasia before. I recently, like, it's been a year, I've been using Adobe Rush. But before that, I used to use Camtasia, and I agreed. It has been really beneficial tool for me as well. And I try to make a few GIFs as well in Camtasia, and it turned out to be pretty cool. But mostly I've been like using that to edit my podcast, like you said, for yourself as well, and also like my YouTube channel videos. So it does have really cool features.
For sure it does. And Adobe Rush is a great one too. I haven't used it very much, but I know you've had Claudio Zavala on the show before, and Claudio taught me a lot about Adobe Rush and how great it is. So that's one I've got to try out someday.
Sure, please go ahead. So I have a fun question for you. What do you do to de-stress and relax yourself?
Oh, I do. My most favorite things to do to release stress are either playing with my kids or playing with my dog. So we have a new puppy who is about 13 weeks old right now. His name is Tuck. He weighs about 8 pounds. He's just a tiny little guy, and he loves to play, and he loves to wrestle around on the floor, and he loves to play fetch. So right now, that's my favorite. If I'm frustrated or stressed out, just get on the floor and play with the puppy, and it's always fun. And you can't not smile when there's a puppy rolling around on the floor next to you, because he's just so silly. So that's perfect for me.
I agree. If you, like, even like when we have dogs in our colony in near my house, and like they come sometimes to have food, so I put out some milk from them, and then seeing them drinking the milk is like really cool, and it feels really nice to see them drink milk. And also like my friend has a pet cat, and like she's really cute. Whenever we put out some like woolen things near her, she just starts playing with that with her paws, and that's really cute.
And they're so cute and innocent, right? You can't help but be happy around them.
Right, I agree. So my next question to you is, how can a GIF help a teacher to engage the students?
So there's a couple different ways we could use GIFs with students. And first of all, I always tell teachers, we don't all have to do certain things, right? So somebody might be listening and go like, I don't want to use a GIF in my classroom. That's okay, right? It doesn't have to be that way. One way is kind of the way that I've used it, which is to create instructions in a GIF and be able to show those. It's a little more complex, and most teachers probably aren't going to put that time into doing that. If they do, I think they'll get great results from it, but they don't need to do that. Maybe they want to show their students, I don't know, how to submit their assignment in Google Classroom, or how to add something to their Adobe Rush project. They could use a GIF to show that, and the students could watch that GIF. So that's one way. Another way is to just bring little fun things into their class. Like maybe in their lesson, they show a little GIF that relates to what they're teaching about with SpongeBob or whatever it might be. Or maybe they're putting it in their learning management system. It's a nice way to add a little hook in there, make students smile, make class not always seem so serious, right? And add some little bit of fun in there. So those are kind of two different ways you could do it. One is to show instructions, and another is just to add fun little stuff into class.
Right, that's actually very substantial. That GIFs allow us to express any kind of complex message, like you were talking about, 20 minutes long video in matter of seconds, and these can be used to engage students in writing projects as well. When it comes to like turning any abstract concept into something that's very tangible or relatable. And like when we have the visual stimuli that can trigger a very emotional or very exciting response from everybody, because it forms a kind of memory as well, that we saw that kind of GIF, which is very interesting. Like you mentioned the fun element or like creating instructions with GIFs. I totally agree with that, because we had this flip teaching in environmental applications just a few months back in grade 10. So I made the project on the topic called saving water. That was one of the chapters that we were supposed to work upon. And it was all about like how small dams and big dams are different, and like what are the types of dams and all. So in between, like as I was teaching, I added this funny GIF that says, "Are you clear?" And that was like a funny person talking about, "Yes, are you clear?" So that basically broke the entire teaching time, and then it basically gave a fun element, and then we start teaching again. So basically it's like when you take a break and then start again. It's not in one go.
Yeah. It's like when your teacher is teaching a lesson and they stick a joke in there halfway through. Like they tell a joke and everybody relax for a second and then they get back into it. It's a nice little break. I agree.
Right. So my next question for you is, we have many EdTech resources. So what can we do that teachers and students know which one they have to choose? And if they choose one, what suggestions would you like to offer them?
So I think what overwhelms teachers is that there are so many tools in educational technology. There are hundreds. If I wanted to list all of the common ones out there, I'd probably have a list of 150 or 200 different educational technology tools, and that's too many for an educator to think about. There's been a lot of studies done over the years that if we have that many choices, that's not good. We don't want that many choices. We just get overwhelmed. We want a small number of choices, because that way we get to pick what we want, but it's not overwhelming when we're trying to pick. And so the way for a teacher to pick which ones to use is to think about what they're trying to achieve. Are they trying to assess if their students know a concept, so they see if they need help on it? We call that formative assessment. If that's their case, then that only means they need to look at like 15 or 20 different tools. Or are they trying to hear from all of their students? So maybe they need to look at blogging tools, or maybe they need to look at video tools like Flip. Or are they trying to get their students to share their voices outside of the classroom? Maybe then they need to look at blogging tools or digital portfolio tools or podcasting tools, right? So what is it that this teacher is trying to achieve? And then you could pick the educational technology tools, because once you know what you're trying to achieve, that eliminates a whole lot of different options, right? It's like going out to dinner. And if you're going out to dinner with somebody who's a vegetarian, well, that eliminates a whole lot of options, right? You're only considering certain restaurants. Or if you're going out to dinner and your friend really wants pizza, then that eliminates a whole lot of different restaurants. So we think about what is it that we're trying to do, and then we try to make our choice, and that makes it easier for the teachers. So, and I think you said, what other suggestions would I offer to the teachers when they make this choice? The other suggestion I would give them is to feel okay not choosing all of them. It's okay to not know all of them. Educational technology, you said it in the intro, I'm an enthusiast. That means I love educational technology, and I don't know all of the tools out there. So teachers need to give themselves permission to not know them all themselves. Just know the one that helps them in that moment.
Totally agree with that. That we have so many options, like which edtech tool we can choose, or some of them we might not even know that they exist. So if we are knowing that these tools are existing, and we narrow down to the topics that we want to focus upon, like you mentioned, blogging with Flip, or podcasting, that could be anything like Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcast, Video FM, many more. So teachers can basically know what they're trying to achieve. And like your suggestion, that is totally agreeable, that it is to feel okay if you're not choosing all of them. Because if you're even choosing one and that is helping you, you should go ahead for that. And then later we can explore more tools and delve deep into them, and then try using that in the classroom as well.
Absolutely. And Nami, I have a related question for you. I know you're excited about STEM. Are you into computer science? Do you like coding and computer science?
Yes.
Yes. So it's very similar in computer science, right? If you want to be a coder or something like that, you first need to decide, am I making a video game, or am I making an app, or am I making a website, or am I making maybe an API that goes with some website or tool? Because there's a lot of different coding languages and you can't learn them all. So you learn the one that relates to what you're trying to do. It's very similar to what we want teachers to do with educational technologies. I don't know. I know there's C++ and there's Python and there's HTML. I don't know what they all do, but different ones are better geared towards different tools. So, if you're trying to make a game for people to play on their phones, maybe that means you're going to use a certain type of code and you're going to ignore the other ones. You don't have to learn those. And that's what we want teachers to do with their EdTech tools too.
Right. I agree when it comes to making apps. It depends upon you. What do you want to use? You want to use Microsoft Barcode, you want to use Sublime Text, Visual Studio Code, GitHub, Adobe XD. Depends all upon you. Do you want to make prototypes, or do you want to make the proper functioning of the app? So that's when it depends upon the teachers what she wants to use.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. So in the end, I would like to ask you that where can we find you online? And would love to have a message from you for the audience watching us.
So where you can find me online, my website is jakemiller.net. And then on social media, I'm at Jake Miller Tech everywhere. So go on to TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of those places. I'm at Jake Miller Tech. And my message for the audience, if you're an educator that's listening, I want to tell you thank you. Thank you for your hard work. I know it's been a couple of hard years since the pandemic started a couple of years ago. And thank you for your hard work and what you do for your students and for your learners. That's so awesome. And if maybe you're a learner like Namya, keep sharing, keep doing the work that you do. Find your passion and keep going and making great things happen. And Namya, thank you so much for having me on. You're awesome.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jake. It was an honor to have you here. And listening to you today has reminded me of the fact that technology can become the wings that will allow the educational world to fly faster and farther than ever before. And once again, thank you so much for coming here on the podcast and talking to all of us, sharing your insights about how GIFs and how we can basically make technology more better using GIFs.
I love that. Thank you, Nami. Thank you for that comment. I'm writing that down right now. Technology is going to give the wings to that teaching. I'm going back to this podcast episode. I'm going to write that. I'm going to make a poster out of it. That was so good.
Thank you so much once again for being here. So thank you everyone for listening to us and joining this episode. And I'll see you in the next one. Till then, each one, teach them. Have a nice day.